Hot in studio this morning, and I wonder if it has to do with climate change, one of the biggest threats to the survival of the human species on this planet. Now, South Africa has outlined some ambitious goals for mitigating greenhouse gas emissions, but there's a big difference between hot air, as in spoken hot air, and really doing something worthwhile. So with me in studio this morning, two guests, one of them Kevin James, who has a whole bunch of titles, but most of it is around carbon, I was going to say carbon dating, not carbon dating, carbon control. Kevin, what is actually being done about this situation of climate change in our country?
Thanks, Michael. Well, actually, right now in South Africa, we find ourselves in a situation where most of the activities around response to climate change is really voluntary. Legislation is being tabled at the moment in Parliament, so there is a green paper at the moment being discussed, and that will become legislation later in the year. So obviously, in the absence of political will right now, which seems like it's changing, we're seeing a lot of companies, organizations, individuals who are actually taking up the fight against global warming-induced climate change, and that is really where we are focused right now.
Okay, Pick n Pay, one of those companies, Andre.
Indeed, yeah. As a retailer, we cannot ignore the potential impact that climate change will have on our business and on our customers. And that's why we got involved with the Climate Change Leadership Awards, because it's such a great way to both reward and highlight people that's actually involved in taking steps against climate change.
So Kevin, tell me about some of those awards. As you rightly pointed out, this is not legislated yet, so you are recognizing individuals and companies who are taking their own initiative to actually bring about climate change or improvements in climate change.
That is correct, Michael. These awards, this is the second year of these awards, and these awards are really there. The objective is really to acknowledge and reward companies, individuals, communities, schools, who are really taking a leadership position in the fight against global warming-induced climate change.
What sort of categories are we talking about?
Well, within the private sector or the company corporate sector, we're talking about 6 categories. They are, the one category is mining, industrial and energy. Then we're talking agriculture and food, the retail sector, the financial sector, the corporate services sector, and then obviously the small and medium-sized businesses. And on the other side, we're talking about the Climate Hero Awards, and that's 2 main categories. The one category is the schools category, which is very kindly sponsored by Pick n Pay, and then communities category sponsored by the South African Post Office.
Okay, tell me about the schools category, Andre.
Yeah, essentially, Michael, we're trying to encourage the youth to start taking action, to start taking a stance against climate change. So we'd like to encourage schools, go to the Pick n Pay website or go to the Climate Change Leadership Awards website, go nominate someone, go enter a project that you've done and get recognized for what you're doing.
So it's really as easy as that. If my grandmother is wrapping her geezer with those old spandex bras or whatever the case is, that's worth a nomination, as it were.
As long as you enter, yes.
Okay. So tell me about the criteria for winning a Climate Change Leadership Award. I mean, what are you going to recognize? What impresses you?
Okay. Well, there's obviously different criteria for the different categories, but in the private sector or the corporate sector, we really look at companies that have integrated the response to climate change into their business strategy. We're talking about their disclosure and transparent and accurate disclosure of their emissions and their impact, their performance, how they're responding and reducing their impact, as well as their advocacy to their stakeholders. We're talking about how they are communicating to customers, to investors, and to suppliers, and changing the behavior of people they do business with. And then on the Climate Hero side, we're talking about community projects and school projects that are really aimed at increasing social and environmental sustainability, as well as raising awareness through education.
Well, there you go. If you know someone who's using their initiative, got a great idea when it comes to climate change, then nominate them. Put their idea forward, no matter how small or seemingly trivial, because you never know. That idea might spark another idea, might spark a better idea, and all of a sudden we might have the solution to affecting climate change on this planet. Wouldn't that be a great idea? You're watching Expresso, and it is hot.